Hello, everybody. Hello to our global audience. Thank you very much for your support. Today is the 24th of August, Monday, a day when Scott Bessent was supposed to make the biggest announcement of all to devastate Iran with economic sanctions like nobody has ever seen before. And obviously, that landed like a mouse fart. So to break it all down for you and make it all understood for everybody, I have the great pleasure of inviting our contributor, one of our founding members, Sabrina, who is here in the studio. Hello, Sabrina. Please go ahead and take it from here and explain the news that is breaking all over everywhere regarding what is going on with the world.
Yeah, so Monday afternoon, Scott Bessent, who is a part of the Trump administration, held a press conference where he announced that the U.S. is going to implement these harsh, severe sanctions on Iran. And not just Iran, but any country who he started out to say is helping Iran smuggle oil, as he phrased it. But later on, he admits that it's any country that is doing business with Iran or is, involved with Iran in any way, shape, or form. So it's not just whoever is helping them, as he said, smuggle oil. And I want to explain to people what this really means. So during that press conference, there were a number of questions from reporters who were there. And one of the questions that came up was, what about China? Is the U.S. going to implement sanctions on China as well? Because obviously they do have business dealings with Iran. And he said, quote, we will implement sanctions on any country that does not abide by this, economic D-Day rule that they have laid out. So that would include sanction China if they continue to do that. Now, here's the problem. Ultimately, he admitted that the goal is to isolate Iran and to make it so that if they don't want to be a part of the US dollar, they will not be. The problem that comes from this is that you have countries like China and Russia and also the UAE that do have business dealings with Iran. I think Bahrain is another one. He didn't want to name the countries and the leaders that Donald Trump, he said, spoke to today. I don't even know if that really happened. This administration lies a lot, but he said he would not name them. But he said that by the end of this week, you should hear that one of these banks have been sanctioned because they're not willing to abide by this new rule here. And this brings up the question about BRICS because, oftentimes BRICS has discussed this before in the past about this possibility of moving away from the US dollar. And there were even talks a couple of years ago about concentrating on trading in yuan, right? And so we've been talking before about this idea of a multipolar world. And I think what's going to end up coming from this, number one, I think Iran is very much prepared for this. I think they've been prepping for this for quite some time, that at some point the US could try to do this type of move against them. So I don't think this is going to work the way that they are hoping it would. Um, but I think that like ultimately, when we're talking about the economic situation, I think this is going to hurt the US. I think it's going to hurt us because I just don't see China or Russia, maybe the UAE because they kind of, they're puppets of the West, but I don't see those two countries in particular breaking away from their business dealings with Iran to appease the United States. I don't think that's going to happen. And so I think ultimately what is going to come from this is that the pain from the US dollar, we are going to experience that here in the United States because we don't produce a lot here in the US. Even some of the materials that are used in these quote unquote mom and pop businesses here in the United States, a lot of times those materials come from countries like China or Mexico. And you hear Trump is wanting to implement tariffs on Canada now. Again, like we don't really make as much here as we used to. So we're going to feel the brunt of that. And I obviously Scott Bessent isn't going to admit that to the American people, but the point that I want to get across is that they are willing to make us feel more economic pain here right at home than to just walk away from this war altogether.
Well, Sabrina, as I was just saying before we got started, we are honored to have some inside information. People trust us from places that you would not normally think that we would have access to, but we do have access to that, and we have reported that here on this channel, and it has always been proven to be accurate. Tehran is unfazed by all this. Pakistan is totally unfazed. In fact, Pakistan, I mean, I'm quoting directly the finance minister and the deputy prime minister because I happen to have spoken to him yesterday, and he said, "Bring it on." I mean, exactly those words, "Bring it on." Now, the crazy part of all this is the following. Trump is making all this big noise of maximum sanctions. Bessent is supposed to be imposing the sanctions of all sanctions and blah 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 and all of that. But at the same time, nothing has actually been imposed on Pakistan. In fact, he's begging Pakistan one more time. Asim Munir is in Tehran today as we speak, literally as we speak. And I happen to have had the opportunity to speak with somebody who is very close to Asim Munir, and I was told confidentially that Asim Munir and Trump spoke directly, and Trump was almost begging him, "Can you, when you are in Iran, would you mind doing this for us again?" Which is to find us an off ramp. Now, you are asking Pakistan to find you an off ramp, and at the same time, you're threatening Pakistan. Now, how is that going to happen, Sabrina? Make that make sense to me, because I am a simple guy. I don't understand all of this, geopolitical machinations, and and nor does our audience, which is composed of really intelligent people all over the world. This is really stupid as far as I can tell, that you are threatening somebody and then you are also asking them for favors.
Yeah, it's really interesting what's happening behind the scenes, right? Like they want you to see the world as a stage. So they're going to give you the information that makes you think that the US is winning here and they have the upper hand, but we actually do not, right? And some people still are falling for it. Like that's the crazy thing about all of this. But what's more interesting is those conversations that are happening behind closed doors, the ones that the press are not privy to, the information that is kept from us for the most part, unless you have like that inside information. Donald Trump is in sheer utter panic. We are also, before you know it, it's August right now, but it's going to be the midterms pretty soon. Before you know it's going to be November. And the idea is that what we've been hearing is that Iran is they're prepared. They're prepared to drag this out to the midterms. Um, and I think the Trump administration ultimately they've been looking at that angle as well, but they know that they really have no other cards to play. And now they're putting out these threats towards other countries that are doing business with Iran, and it's going to massively fail. It's not going to work. Now I will say this: I think that they have this idea in their head that since they can't beat them on the battlefield, that they will try their best to beat them economically. And I think that they believe that by implementing these sanctions, that eventually it's going to get to the point where they're hoping the Iranian citizens, the civilians, will get upset with the high prices, right? So sanctions do have been known to kill people. The cost of medicine increases, the cost of food will increase. I think that they are hoping that the Iranian civilians will become so upset and so angry at the high cost of living that they will then rise up against the IRGC and they will try to overthrow the government. I don't think that's going to happen. And I think they in their mind, the Trump administration, they really have this dream in their head that we're still going to be able to get the people to turn against them. Well, how did that work out? The first try about this, assassinating Ayatollah Khamenei, and you see them all show up for his funeral anyway. Like I don't think that's going to work. But here's what I think what they may do. I think that the US may, of course, work with Israel to do something similar where they may have people infiltrated in Iran, starting more of these protests to make it seem as though the people are lashing out against the government because of the sanctions, et cetera, and they want the leadership gone. I think that's the propaganda that they'll probably try to spend, at least in the Western, news cycle. And They'll say, okay, well, here's our chance to get this regime completely out and install a Western puppet. But I just don't think it's going to work. The US has been able to do this with other countries pretty successfully. But this time around, Iran is very tough. And again, it's like Iran is always one step ahead of the US. They already know what they believe the US is going to try to do, and they can tell by looking at history. So I think that Iran was prepared for this. They already announced that if the US did move forward with these sanctions, that they would attack economic infrastructure of American businesses that are there in that region as well. That would include Google and Microsoft, et cetera. So that would also hurt jobs. And I don't think they're bluffing about that. So it's one thing to attack those U.S. bases and the ships. The U.S. has been dealing with that. But when they start to attack capital and they start to go after the businesses, I don't think these CEOs are going to be too happy. I don't think Bill Gates is going to be too happy. I don't think Sergey Brin is going to be too happy if Google is attacked. So it's things like that. They know that in order to make their point, all they really have to do is disrupt capital and really hit back at that billionaire class. And so I think that's what a lot of it may end up coming down to. But ultimately, this press conference from Scott Bessent, to me, that screams desperation because they can't beat them militarily. So they're trying to resort to the sanctions. And I will like to remind everybody that the US already has sanctions on Russia, and Russia's economy is not crippled because of those sanctions. So I think what we're going to see happen here is the US dollar, which I already reported over a week ago, has already lost like 30% more of its value. It's not worth anywhere near what it was worth like back in the 70s. It's continued to decline sharply since the '08 housing crisis as well. The US dollar is going to take a hit and it will be worth less and less.
Well, Sabrina, additional reporting I can provide from the inside, and that is as follows: Pakistan, as everybody knows, has six routes into Iran, six different routes, and one of them is the port of Gwadar, which is a massive, the largest deep sea port in the world, the largest, has been built by the Chinese, and huge ships from all over the world go there, disgorge their cargo and overland the next day in Iran. There are six such routes, and Pakistan announced that they're not going to shut any of them down. In fact, Pakistan announced that they are going to increase that traffic even more. They're going to open up more corridors. I mean, obviously, Pakistan is not taking this seriously at all. And the reason why that is the case is because China is strongly behind Pakistan. I mean, to shut out Iran from the dollar system is to shut out Iran from something that Iran has been already shut out for 47 years. And Iran doesn't trade in dollars anymore. Iran doesn't rely upon the American banking system anymore. Iran has been trading in its own currency on the barter system, and the Russians have been doing that with Iran for over 4 decades already. So I have no clue what any of this means. It really is stupid to the highest degree. I mean, beyond stupid, I would say. And what really makes it completely baffling is absolute knowledge that I have, because I heard it from the source, and it will be public knowledge, I think, within a day or 2 days, maybe 3 days, that Trump is on the phone calling up Asim Munir and saying, my favorite field marshal, would you do this one favor? You're going to Iran anyway to invite Iran to become a member of the MACA pact, which is opening up Iran into other avenues, into the geopolitical relationships that will make it stronger and stronger, which is Pakistan, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and now Iran. And would you ask them to please, 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 let's just be friends again. Let's go back and can we be friends again? I mean, this is really what Trump is asking. I mean,
And
it, it is so stupid.
you know what's interesting too? Donald Trump has yet to make a public statement about that defense pact invitation to Iran. He's been very quiet about that, and I think it just speaks
Curious, very
volume.
curious. Why not? Say something. Iran, you're trying to isolate Iran, and now Iran is not isolated.
Yeah, it's, all of this is, I feel like all this has done is made Iran even stronger, because now even, Saudi Arabia, which Saudi Arabia plays both sides, but Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, and Turkey, all of this, would they have started this defense pact if the US and Israel didn't strike Iran?
Oh, of course not. Of course
Right.
not. No,
So
no, no, no.
this has all been Donald Trump's doing. And I think my fear is that no matter who becomes president in 2028, I really think Trump's administration is going to try to burn as much down as they can, to the point where it's going to be more difficult to repair. No matter who becomes president in 2028, like, he's ruining relationships with leaders across the world. This whole situation with Iran could have been completely avoided. There's a reason why other presidents did not go this route, although some were considering. Biden, it was announced after Trump won that Biden was also considering attacking Iran, right? So it just, a lot of this is pressure that comes from the Zionist regime. And it's really not about the protests. It's not about the civilians in Iran, as if anybody should really believe that the US government cares about civilians anywhere else. I mean, come on, let's think about that for a second. So it's not about that. They are
No.
doing the bidding of the Zionist regime. And the big problem for Israel is that Iran is in the way, because they are the resistance. And I guess the idea is that if they can take out Iran, get regime change there, then they can also, do away with Ansar Allah. They won't have to worry about them. And then they feel as though, well, we won't have to worry about Hamas or anything like that. But this is proven to be much tougher than they thought that it was going to be. Donald Trump behind the scenes is not showing the same type of strength that he is showing on camera or at these press conferences. And there have been a number of things that are slowly but surely, like, leaking out as to what his temperament has been behind the scenes during these heated conversations. Wanting to use nukes at one point, just irrational decisions to where he has to be told, no, this is absolutely insane. He has lost, and he doesn't know how to just admit that there's no win in this situation. And then also, I hear people say, well, he should just come forward and say, hey, we beat them, it's over. The problem is, though, is that too much information has been leaked. You've been saying all this time that their navy's destroyed, that they have no air force, like everything is destroyed, but they still keep making strikes. And then to go
Yes.
along with that, JD Vance was just recently in Maine and other places, and he came up with this topic as well. He was talking about how we can't let them have a nuclear weapon. So if Donald Trump now walks away from it and says we won or whatever, then the sentiment from the public is, well, what about the nuclear weapon? It's like, I mean, it's they really dug this grave, and no one's going to be able to get them out of it.
They dug the hole and they keep digging it deeper and deeper and deeper. Well, as far as the nukes talks is concerned, Sabrina, we reported on this channel and it was reported elsewhere as well that over the weekend, I mean, a couple of days ago, he was in Camp David and he was having his big conference with his military people, blah blah blah, and all of that. And then at one point he said, "Well, why can't we just simply nuke them?" And Dan Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, said, "No, sir, we cannot do that. Don't even talk about that." I mean, this is how stupid he is because he doesn't understand. I mean, I have no idea how the American public elected a criminal, vulgarian, stupid idiot. That combination, literally, stupid
Well, there's
idiot.
a it's true, but in the press is also helping with this too, right? Like, I'm not sure if you saw the letter that was published by The Guardian, where apparently these academics signed on to this letter, but that is now being disputed by some of them. And of course, a political prisoner himself, Mumia Abdul, also his signature is on this letter. And his reps were saying that he did not sign on to this. This letter in the Guardian is basically saying that we are advocating for the political prisoners of Iran. They are basically calling the Iranian people political prisoners and that they're being held captive by the IRGC and that they can't move freely and they can't speak and they can't do all these different things. This letter is really embarrassing. And it is getting attacked from a number of anti war, anti imperialist voices online. And what has happened is because of the backlash that has come from this, a number of some of those academics have made statements publicly that they didn't sign this letter, but the Guardian published it and put their signatures on the letter. Now, some of them I think are lying. I think some of them did sign it, but there's some of them that maybe they didn't. But they have like Angela Davis. Her name is on there. It wouldn't surprise me if she signed it though. She moves weird. But the point that I'm trying to make is that the press is also actively trying to work to damage Iran's reputation, to damage their image across the world. And this letter is just another example of that. And so while Donald Trump's figuring out how am I going to beat them if we can't beat them on the battlefield and what do we do to come out on top of this, he has a massive media, corporate media that is also working to help put out this message against Iran. And The Guardian is based in the UK. Now, this is important because we know the UK has been cracking down heavily, censoring voices that have been critical of Israel. And the backlash that is coming from this letter just tells you everything you need to know. So he has the press at his disposal that is also trying to put out this message so that people, I guess, will support the war with Iran. But a lot of people are not falling for it, and it's weak at best, and it just goes to show you how desperate they are.
Well, press, unfortunately, Sabrina, I'm old enough to know from the Vietnam days, going all the way back because I was a student at Berkeley at the time, young student, very young, very ambitious about world peace and all of that. And I saw press Westmoreland. Do you remember that? General Westmoreland was his name. We used to call him Westmoreland. Constantly, every single day, body counts, how many people we killed, how many, blah blah blah, bridges we destroyed, roads we destroyed, and it just went on and on and on and on. And then eventually the bubble got burst. But today, thanks to the people like yourself, like this channel, like other people in independent media, this is not working anymore. This kind of shtick is not working anymore, and constantly we are able to burst that bubble, that they have, and nobody believes any of the shit that they put out. Nobody believes it, and that is why you see CNN, everybody else like that, not have the kind of ratings that they once had, not have the audiences that they once had, and even those audiences that are still there, they don't really believe the kind of stuff that they put out you know, talking about nuclear capabilities. He Trump is talking about nuking Iran, and he's been musing about that before, and thankfully he has been shut down. But Iran, we reported on this channel a week ago because we have inside access. Iran has decided that they're going to enrich the 440 kilograms of uranium they have from 60% to 90%. The supreme leader gave his signal that he's going to do that. I reported that on this channel about a week ago, and that is actively going on right now. So that means that they have weapons grade uranium that they had previously said they are not going to go that route. They're not going to go there. They were not interested in that. But Trump has managed to accomplish that now. So the decision from there to a nuclear bomb is a one-day decision. That is the threshold where Iran is sitting today. So if this guy keeps on pushing, a couple of things that they are going to do, and we reported this earlier, and we can confirm that that is in fact the case. They're going to get out of the NPT, the Non-Proliferation Treaty, and they're going to demonstrate ability to have a nuclear weapon by detonating the enriched uranium that they have. They are very smart people. They are capable of doing that. They were not going to do that. They killed the Ayatollah who said that no, don't do that. And now his son, not bound by what the father said. So this is what Trump accomplished. This is his accomplishment.
They
That was
they
not there before.
they basically made the case for Iran to have a nuclear weapon because if Iran did have a nuclear weapon, well, then the US would have to be civil towards them, right?
Yes.
They wouldn't be able to, like, this changes the game. There's a reason why the US doesn't try to poke the bear with North Korea, right? Like, they have to be more measured. But because the US and Israel decided to strike Iran first and had, killed children in Iran, and not just the little girls at the school. Max Blumenthal had reported this as well when he was on the ground there in Iran. But we're talking about apartment buildings of civilians that have been killed as well. So they have made the case for Iran to have a nuclear weapon. And honestly, the Ayatollah at this point in time, you can't blame him if he does go in that direction because the reality is, what is Iran supposed to do? Are they supposed to just sit back and allow the West to pummel them? Are they supposed to sit back and wait for Israel to strike them again or to infiltrate their country again, to send in people to make it look like it's the Iranian people that are rising up? And all? What are they supposed to do? Just sit back? Like, they killed civilians and Iran was literally just minding its own business. And so there's that aspect to it. And then there's also, we cannot forget about Ansar Allah, which is, they have their own back and forth happening with Saudi Arabia right now. I mean, it's just Trump and Netanyahu have unleashed a disaster, like in the region, to go along with it. And I want to remind everybody too that you still have the situation in Gaza where the Palestinians are still, like, they're being herded into this new encampment, which is basically another open air prison, a smaller space than before, and they're been given the go ahead to finish them all and all of this type of talk. Jared Kushner, who I want to remind everybody is not a government official, Jared Kushner said this publicly to a reporter that if Hamas is not completely disarmed, then Israel has permission to go in and finish off all of them. That came from Jared Kushner. This guy is not a member of government. And so there's so much that's happening there, in the Middle East. And I feel like Trump and Netanyahu, they have escalated an already disastrous situation. And Iran is not going to back down. So people have to remember Iran does have an army. The reason why they don't want there to be a Palestinian state is because when you're a state, you're allowed to have an army. So you got to remember that Gaza, they don't have a state, so Hamas thus is like their army. And it's just it's wild, it's crazy. It'll be interesting to see where things go from here, but from what I read, they're prepared to drag this out through November. And
Yes.
if you notice, when was the last time the US struck Iran?
About a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
So they have basically shot their wad. There's nothing more to shoot at. I mean, they don't have anything to shoot with. Actually, they're
Oh,
done. They're done. Abraham Lincoln, take a look at it, limping its way to wherever. You know, it is ridiculous, Sabrina. I cannot even comprehend the craziness. Well, I want to share one additional piece of news with you, which came to us yesterday. The Crown Prince of Bahrain, where the Fifth Fleet is headquartered. A massive Fifth Fleet is headquartered over there. The base is basically destroyed, so it's not really usable anymore. The U.S. base, because of all the Iranian missiles that have landed there. The Crown Prince has been negotiating with the Pakistani deputy chief of staff of the military all day yesterday, Sunday, to join the Saudi Arabia Pakistan military alliance. This is not the Mecca Pact, but this is a military alliance that Pakistan has with Saudi Arabia. So, can you imagine the impact of that on the entire region when your supposed biggest ally in the region, where your fifth fleet is headquartered, is not trusting you anymore and is actually looking to Pakistan to provide its security? They spent all day yesterday. There is a very good reason to believe that they are going to be allowed in, and maybe within a week, 10 days, that announcement will be made. So I mean,
And if,
look at what Trump has accomplished. He has stirred the pot.
yep, if that happens, the US is done. If that happens, if Iran joins that alliance and if they sign that defense pact, if that happens, the US and Israel are done.
And that is
Um
that is likely to happen within a matter of, if not weeks, maybe a month, maybe 2 months. But it,
yeah,
it is the train is moving in that direction.
yep, yep. And
The
so
fuel, yeah.
again, it's like these attacks didn't make Iran weaker, it made it stronger. And a lot of this, could have been avoided. And I wish I was a fly on that wall during some of those conversations in the situation room, because it's laughable that they can just lie so blatantly to the American people as if we can't see with our own eyes. How can you continue to tell us they have no navy and no aircraft when we see them firing weapons? They're using their navy and using like their air force. It's laughable to me. But you know what's interesting? Some people actually will still sit there and believe it because Donald Trump told them so, and because he told them that everything is fake news. So believe what he says and don't believe what the news shows you. But there's videos everywhere on Telegram, on social media. We've seen quite a bit of it, and I think this is really going to change the order of things, because now it gets to the point where when we talk about the multipolar world, well, what does that look like? Right now, what I see, that doesn't include the United States, because the US wants to have that global dominance and they don't want to work alongside, these countries like Iran, Russia, and China in the way that they should. They want to have the upper hand. And so, what I see and predict is not Iran being isolated on the world stage. I predict the US is going to be the country that eventually will become isolated on the world stage. And I think it's only a matter of time. And you look at the tariffs that they just announced against Canada, 50% like tariffs on Canada. Again, we don't make things here. We don't a lot of the materials we're not making here. We're getting them from other countries. For people who if you ever take your car to the shop, a lot of the auto parts come from Mexico. Like it's all over the place. So we don't have the type of stronghold that Donald Trump is pretending that we have. We need those other countries. And then also don't forget, when it comes to China, well, we do get those rare earth minerals from China to make the weapons here in the United States. So they can try to strong arm China if they want to because they're doing business with Iran. But the reality is, if China cuts off those rare earth minerals, that's a wrap for the United States. And this is something they just don't want to admit publicly. But we do need them. We need China. We do need these other countries, Russia, etc., in order to keep trade happening here in the United States. Now, if we were one of those countries where we were producing and making a lot of things here, then there could be an argument made for that. But we're not. And so to pretend as if we're not relying on those countries, it's laughable, I think, at best. And anyone with a brain, I think, can see what's really going on here.
Well, China actually has put a restriction on the export of rare earth minerals. So none of those. I mean, it's just not the weapons that cannot be made. A lot of the high-end chips cannot be made because those require those rare earth minerals that come from China. So I have no clue who this guy is trying to impress. But I'm reminded of the fact, Sabrina. I go back to the Vietnam situation, which was, of course, total disaster. And even at the height of the disaster, there were 25% people in this country who supported Nixon. So I mean, you're always going to have that 25%. So I think those guys whoever they are. I mean, you will never reach them. But the rest of us know what the hell is going on.
Hmm.
The rest of us know the score, and it's really impossible in the day of and time of independent media like what we do, and that's the reason we do it, to really keep on bullshitting everybody. It's just not gonna work.
No, it's not. And I will also add this. I think that the days of the US just kind of throwing its bullying energy around, it's getting far and few. It's not even just China, Russia, and Iran, but don't forget that Spain said no to the United States.
Yeah,
And it's just
absolutely
and it,
no.
yeah, I mean it says a lot. Turkey is a member of NATO and they joined this defense pact with Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. I mean, at some point these leaders, and I was hoping that at some point it would happen, that they would look out for, whoa, we have to look out for our people here. Like this is crazy. Like what if they come and attack us? I was hoping at some point this would happen where they would wake up and realize maybe we can't and shouldn't depend on the West and the US the way that we thought. Maybe we really need to protect our infrastructure, our people here in our country. The US and Israel is crazy. There's no telling they're not going to come after us. And then you also have members of Benjamin Netanyahu's cabinet right now saying that Turkey is next. I mean, so what do people expect Turkey to do? I mean, they have to protect themselves as well. Now, I think there's a lot more that Erdogan could have been doing, because from what I understand, he's still has his business dealings with Israel as well. I think they should cut Israel off completely. But they're starting to realize that they are not safe either. And that's a good wake up call for them to have. And I think that, this is not going the way that Trump thought it was going to go. People are not abandoning Iran the way that they thought. Now, some of those countries that I think may walk away from this after that announcement about the sanctions, the UAE is probably one of them. They may walk away. They tend to cave very easily to the U.S. So I'll keep an eye on that one. But I mean, again, they have all these other countries that they are still doing business with. And I think Iran probably saw this announcement and laughed. And
Yes, yes, yes,
I
yes.
I hold them to their word. Like when they say that they would attack the economic infrastructure, I think they actually will.
There's a lot that Iran can do. The escalation belongs to Iran, Sabrina. It doesn't belong to Trump. I mean, what can Trump do? The only thing left for him to do is to put some nuclear bombs on Iran, and nobody's going to allow him to do that, thankfully.
Yep.
But Iran can do a bunch of stuff. They can get out of the NPT. They can detonate a nuclear device. They can attack the ships. I mean, all the ships that are sitting there in that region, they're a big fat target. How come none of them have even attempted to go inside the Strait of Hormuz? If U.S. is that all powerful, if Trump keeps on bullshitting to the world that the Strait of Hormuz is open and we are in control. Okay, why haven't any of your naval ships tried to go past that? Not one.
They
Because
can't even take care of the soldiers on those naval ships. I mean, Pete Hegseth tried to hide this, but
yeah,
it came out eventually anyway, right? Like the reason why those soldiers were dealing with, low food on the USS Abraham Lincoln and
moldy
not
food.
getting, yeah, moldy food and a shortage of food is because Iran attacked the base where they get the food and the supply from.
Yes, yes,
And it's
yes.
like, okay, you expect people not to find this out at some point or another. And so they tried to hide that, but that information was leaked. And so at the end of the day, there's only so much that they can do. I will say this, I am seeing more people. I feel like every week, more people are turning away from the Trump administration. And this, I'm including, this is people who voted for him. Some of them who voted for him 3 times. So more people are turning away and they're like, whoa, this is not what I was expecting, when I supported him or whatever. But I think that this needed to happen. I think people needed to see him for what he really is. And not just him, but I think it's opening a lot of people's eyes to empire and who's really, you know, I guess driving the bus, so to speak. And that the people are starting to see that a lot of these politicians are just merely puppets, and the donor class and these elites are the ones that are really driving the bus. So people have to remember that Israel is also supported by the Epstein class. Like, they support the Israel project. So Israel itself cannot exist without the money that is going into it to keep it there. So if the money wasn't there, Israel wouldn't this wouldn't even be a thing. But it is supported by the establishment. And so that's how it's able to do what it's been doing. We were donating what 3.8 billion dollars we were giving to them every year. I mean, we have our own problems right here in the US. And so I just see Israel as a US military base in the Middle East that's basically there to make sure that Western interests stay dominant and have some type of control. And the plan was always to basically take over that whole region. And that would include, and I would caution Egypt too, because I don't see them stopping at that either, right? Like, part of Egypt was included in that greater Israel project.
Yes.
So if I were Egypt, I would be reaching out to some of the other countries that are forming these pacts, and I would try to, I don't know, see if I can join in somewhere too, because you're not safe either.
Well, Egypt has made a request to join the Mecca Pact and is under consideration. It was announced by Erdogan and is also announced by Asim Munir, the Field Marshal of Pakistan. It was also announced by Crown Prince MBS that they are considering bringing them in. Can you imagine the strength of that pact when Iran, Egypt, Pakistan, and Saudi Arabia and Bangladesh? I mean, that has been big news. Bangladesh wants to join, which is not even in the region, and they have been welcomed. They've been asked to submit an invitation, an application to join the pact. Bangladesh is a big country. I mean, almost 300 million people, lots of people over there with a lot of influence. So Bangladesh will join. All of these other countries will join. And where does that leave the U.S.? It leaves it out.
There's no one doing this. Like, it Trump brought everything to this moment. There's no one doing this, regardless of who becomes president in 2028. I don't see
Yes.
those countries walking away from that pact.
No, the train has already started moving, and it is an inexorable move. And this is what Trump has accomplished. Well, Sabrina, thank you so much for lending your very learned voice, very deep analysis, different perspective to everything that we do here at this channel. It has grown significantly. We have 7.5 million views in less than 6 weeks. I mean, it's extraordinary. So thank you so much for being a part of us, and thank you so much for giving us your letting us your deep analysis, which is very much welcome. To our global audience, if you like what we do, please hit the like and subscribe button. Please become a paid member by supporting us, going to our Substack channel, and for $5 a month, we'll deliver this twice a week inside your mailbox. And please go and subscribe to Sabrina. She has a very fantastic channel that keeps on growing as well. I mean, you have more than 500,000 subscribers now, right?
Almost. We're over 400,000, but yeah, we've been growing pretty well.
Fantastic, fantastic. Because you bring a different voice. I mean, a different perspective that people don't get anywhere else. I mean, a perspective that people can relate to.
Thank
That's the way
you.
I look. That's
Thank
the
you.
way I look at it. I mean, I mean, it doesn't matter what you say if people don't relate to that. It is useless. And the way you present it, people relate to that. So thank you very much for lending your voice here. You want to say
Thank
anything
you.
in closing?
Just check me out on YouTube. My channel is Sabby Sabs.
Well, thank you very much. I shall see you next week, and I appreciate it very much. And thank you so much for your voice.